And we can't hear Cap.
Can you hear us, Cap?
I mean, clearly he could hear us since he's restarting his headset. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is the RAWBall All Star game.
Hear me.
And we got the Cap. Finish off the intro, my
All
friend.
right, it is the 2023 MLB All Star game. We are ready to go with this thing. Starting a little bit late, but better late than never. Or as they say for, in the high school girls' locker room, better late than pregnant.
Hey, point is, we're here. Took us a little bit extra because my laptop was having a stroke.
Ooh.
Still is kind of. Was having a little issue trying to start up the show, but we're here. We got a first comment. Good evening, gentlemen. Captain Mute. Yeah, you're starting to build up on gimmicks now, Cap.
Dave, I'll deal with you later.
Damn, 2 minutes in.
Yeah, that kind of happened like last stream, too. You talked shit about the White Sox not having any chance with winning in the home run.
Captain Mute, hell, in high school they called me Captain Mono.
Oh,
hey,
the man, the myth, the legend.
Our guest.
Winning in the home run.
Captain Mute, hell, in high school they called me Captain Mono.
Oh,
hey.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Our guest.
Winning in the home run.
Captain Mute, hell, in high school they called me Captain Mono.
Oh,
Hey.
the man, the myth, the legend.
Our guest. I'm going to back out and come back in. Captain Mute, hell, in high school they called me Captain Mono.
Oh, the man, the myth, the legend.
Again. Captain Mute, hell, in high school. Again.
Oh no, it's still going.
The hell?
Here, Buck, go out and then come right back in. Oh no, it's still going.
The hell?
Here.
Yeah, hop out and then come back in. Okay.
That was an amazing way to start.
I thought I hated my voice on stream.
What
I hated that even more.
What
That was
an
torturous.
audio loop.
Vietnam will use that for torture message now.
Well, this show is just off to one hell of a start.
We started late. We got one hell of a... Is that Edgar Martinez throwing out the first pitch?
And we entered the great void of the echo.
All right.
Okay, we got Buck. Sorry that your introduction got a little tainted there, Buck. It is All-Star game. We have got the man, the myth, the legend, Buck Ringgold. Sorry that your introduction got a little
No!
I think, Buck, do you have
it
a
is
pair of
All-Star game.
headphones?
We have got the man, the myth, the legend, Buck Ringgold. Sorry that your introduction got
I think
a
you're
little,
repeating yourself again.
I think, Buck, do you have
It's something with your audio, Buck. Have you got some headphones you can put on?
Don't have headphones, no. I think you're repeating yourself again.
It's something with your audio, Buck. Have you got some headphones you can put on?
Don't have headphones.
We didn't have this issue last time. What the hell? We are having one hell of a start to the show.
If this is any indication how the game is going to go.
Watch, this could easily be one of the best All-Star games we've had in a while.
Interesting stuff, nonetheless.
But we're here, and I always go with the AL for the All-Star game.
As do I. I'm an American League guy.
It just seems like the American League always has the better talent going into the All-Star break. But, like, the NL teams do have the higher chance at winning during the World Series.
Did Maddie lay any bets on this game tonight?
No, I am not betting on games until the football season.
Oh.
I could have put bets down last night, but
We wouldn't have made any money with the people we went for.
nope.
Both of them got out in the first round. They didn't even make it to the semis.
They didn't even get a semi? Oh, boy.
Who's Joe Davis? I've never seen him before.
A creator wrestler.
Dude, he does look like a creator wrestler.
With a name and everything, because that's probably the only thing 2K can call out.
All right, Buck is back.
Okay. Let's see if we've got an echo this time. Buck, can you hear us?
I can hear you right now. No echo.
All right. All right.
We're a good start.
I was just watching some clips from The Naked Gun. It reminded me of when Frank Drebin went into the bathroom with his radio mic still on there.
Great scene, by the way.
There's not a bad scene in any of those movies. Oh, first off, Haas, how you been? It's been too long.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yourself?
Well, as you can read, hashtag exhausted. I'm running on fumes after the last 2 days between work and All-Star coverage. But I'm here. I'm making it.
Well, good.
Is the big upset about this game that we don't really have Ohtani playing?
He's playing for the net. He's
Oh, is he
yeah,
actually hitting DH?
yeah, he's hitting second for the AL.
Okay.
At least that's what the lineups are showing us. Well, let's dig right into it, Haas. I know you're not surprised to see Garrett Cole starting for the American League, but did you ever think you would see Zach Gallen starting the All-Star game for the National League?
That was probably a surprise. And really, the Diamondbacks are arguably the most surprising team in the big league so far. So I guess
Yeah.
a reward in that aspect. And Gallen, I mean, obviously, you know, he doesn't get talked about much in terms of elite pitchers, primarily because he pitches for the Diamondbacks and he pitches in Arizona. But nice to see, you know, him get some love and get the start tonight for the National League.
I mean, I'm not upset. I just never thought I would see the day that that Gallen would be starting an All-Star game. But nevertheless, here we are. So it's been kind of a weird first half of the season.
Hey, the Rangers are doing really well. They've got a lot of representation tonight.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good place, Haas. With all the Rangers going tonight, you being a diehard Ranger fan, when's the last time you saw this many Rangers in an All-Star game?
I saw the shirt, so I took a guess.
Well, yeah, and I had to wear the shirt tonight for that, the old school Texas Ranger logo shirt.
I do dig the old school logo.
Yeah, in fact, this was from the early 80s. This is when I became a Ranger fan. 83. This was the logo the Rangers were wearing when I became a Ranger fan back in 1983.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
The Rockies weren't
I also
even
have a
team
logo
at that
shirt from the 70s.
They're still not a team.
That was 4 years before I was a gleeman but my father's eye.
No, to answer your previous question, I know the 2012 All-Star game had several Rangers, plus the manager, Ron Washington, and his staff, because they went to the World Series the previous year. So 2012 is the closest that I can remember having these many Rangers in an All Star game. And that was a game up in Kansas City.
That was when they first opened Kaufman, wasn't it? Or when after they had refurbished it.
Yeah, the first one after the renovations. Yeah.
Yeah, Kaufman's a pretty nice stadium. I gotta say that. What are your thoughts on Globe Life Park? It's not the ballpark in Arlington, obviously.
No, that's
despite window dressing.
I mean, yeah, it's great this time of year with the roof closed, but I grew up going to a bunch of games at the ballpark in Arlington, and there was something about sitting in 90+ degree heat. that was part of the charm. That was part of the appeal. You could sweat your butt off the whole game and enjoy it. Outdoor baseball. I mean, baseball is meant to be played outdoors, regardless of temperature, regardless of weather conditions. So I'm lukewarm about Globe Life Field. Yeah, there's some. I've been there quite a couple of times, and there's some nice elements to the park, but it's just it's still taking me quite a bit to get used to, especially considering you can look out the window beyond the outfield fence and still see the ballpark still standing in the distance.
They haven't demoed it yet.
It's an XFL football venue now.
I have never watched an XFL game, so
I bet on the XFL last
night. It won the XFL championship, so at least we can say the ballpark in Arlington has hosted a championship team as a tenant. Finally, unfortunately, it's not the baseball team.
I remember my first Major League Baseball game. It was at the ballpark in Arlington. It was I can't remember who the Rangers were playing, but Kevin Millwood was the starting pitcher, and it was also the weekend that Nelly Cruz had gotten called up, and I saw him hit his first Major League homer, and here he still is.
I saw Nelly Cruz hit a walk-off back in 2007 at the ballpark. That's how long ago he's played. That's been 16 years ago, and he's still in the big leagues.
Death, taxes, cockroaches, Keith Richards, and Nelly Cruz. Five things that will never go away.
He's like the modern day Julio Franco. Another former Ranger, I might add.
Maybe it's like there's some kind of a fountain of youth when you come up through the Rangers organization. Nolan Ryan, well, he didn't come up through the Rangers organization, but he pitched into his 40s.
Charlie Huff, another pitcher, that went to his 40s. Of course, he has a knuckleball, so that contributed to his longevity. But yeah, the Rangers have had some kind of veteran guy. Bartolo Colon.
Yep.
Big sexy.
His last ball club. He was with the Rangers. His last
and had a perfect game going against the Stros.
Yes.
Who'd have ever Bartolo Colon? Hey, we got Josh in the house. Lost my train of thought there. I've been recommending to everyone about whenever that's what's a good baseball book to read. I ultimately always throw in Seasons in Hell, just because it's a great sports book. It's a great whether you're a baseball fan or not, you can get into that because that first incarnation of the Rangers. It's all right, Josh. I still sent the link to your email. All is good. But let's go through this lineup here for the National League. So Ronald Acuna, obviously perennial All-Star. Freddie Freeman, one of the best contact hitters in the game.
I think Colon is still pitching in his native lands.
At this point, I would take Bartolo Colon over some of the shit bags we've tossed out on the mound.
At least you're going to get consistency. Whether that's good or bad consistency is another thing.
I would have worn one of my White Sox shirts, but unfortunately, none of my White Sox are even playing in this game that I'm aware of. I don't see them in the starting lineup, though Lou Bob had a decent showing in the Derby last night. I've got Frank Thomas's jersey and autographed jersey in the background. That'll have to do.
You got your own little wall of Hall of Famers there, except for
yeah. Well, he should be in the Hall of Fame. I got Pete Rose, Brooks Robinson, only Hall of Famer from the state of Arkansas, Frank Thomas, and I got Pedro Martinez and Kirching over there. And my dog has decided to join the festivities.
Well, just you wait until Andrew Benintendi makes it into the Hall of Fame. Then you'll have 2 Arkansas Hall of Fame.
So what's the reason why a little kid is running on the field? Is this like a
We don't have the volume turned up, so we don't know what's going on.
I should probably put subtitles.
Yeah, I do wonder if Enrico Palazzo is doing the anthem tonight.
Intriguing, yes, very intriguing. He should. I think Enrico Palazzo should sing the national anthem at future All Star games, future World Series contests, every big baseball game.
Well, unfortunately, we lost Enrico Palazzo, aka Leslie Nielsen, a couple of years back.
You can always have a, like
I don't know why you did.
like you have all these Elvis impersonators.
This is the 93rd All Star game. Baseball has been around a long time.
Yeah, I was thinking about that in the shower. So yeah, it started in 1930. I know it started in the 30s. I couldn't remember exactly which year. See, going through the lineup here, J.D. Martinez still hitting. Nolan Arenado. Well, speaking of Brooks Robinson, Haas, is Nolan Arenado the best defensive third baseman since Brooks?
40. We're heading into 40.
Possibly, you could probably make a case for that. I mean, I throw in Greg Nettles too. With the Yankees back in the late '70s. He had some tremendous defensive plays too. But I would say, modern day third base. You could probably catch with Otto.
Oh, that was almost a bomber.
That was almost a dinger on the first at bat.
I just realized not only was that the person that beat him in the home run derby, but that person stole his home run.
It wasn't going to be a homer, but it looked close.
Brooks finished with 16 Gold Gloves, I believe. Arenado's got 9 or 10. I don't know. He could, if he plays long enough, he could tie Brooksy. I don't think anyone's ever going to catch Maddox for Gold Gloves.
How many does Maddox have?
18.
24. Oh.
Yeah, Maddox has 18 and probably will be the last 300 game winner that we'll see.
Nah, you just got to give Verlander another couple seasons.
Please don't do that to my soul. I can't handle it any more Justin Verlander.
I would love that. He's one of my favorite pitchers.
Bro, if he goes past he turned 40 this year, correct?
Give him till 45.
Bro, another 5 seasons.
Give me 5 more seasons.
Well, the Mets signed him. What was that deal he got? Was it 3-4 years that he got with the Mets? I mean, the Mets overpay for everything. I was thinking, Hosh, remember the old movie reel where you've got the little kid just kicking the can down the road? That's the New York Mets. They just kick the can.
Yes.
And Freeman flies out to left. Continuing the NL lineup, one of my favorite players in all of baseball right now, other than Arenado, Luis Arias. Talk about just classic old school. That guy can hit. We were discussing it last night. Do you think he'll ever have a 400 season? I mean, it's like he's just right there, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either. I mean, he's going to flirt with 400 from time to time. I think the best hitter in the last 30, 40 years was Tony Gwynn. And
Yeah.
I mean, even he couldn't break 400. I mean, but there were several seasons in which he flirted with 400, but just couldn't do it. But I just think in this day and age with the analytics and people really focusing in on you, it's just going to be hard for someone to hit 400. But Arias is, he's the best hitter going right now in the majors. And
it was the strike short in '94 season. Gwen was hitting 394,
something
I believe.
Like that. Yeah,
he was pretty close.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sean Murphy at catcher. Carroll playing left field. Orlando Arcia at short. Kind of a surprise there.
Bunch
And
of
it looks
Braves,
like
bunch of Braves, on the National League roster.
Braves are they're one of those teams that they just keep figuring out ways to do it. That farm system of theirs, if I had to think of the two best farm systems in baseball, I'm thinking Cardinals and Braves as far as just consistently, continually, year over year, cranking out talent. You could maybe throw Houston into that discussion, at least over the first 20 years of this century. But just, man, getting into the AL, Marcus Semien got a Ranger leading off. Second base, Shohei Ohtani DHing, Arozarena in left, Seager batting cleanup at short, Yandy Diaz at first, Roldis Garcia right field, Austin Hayes center field. Nice to see Baltimore getting a starter in there. Jung at third base and Heim at catcher. Haas, we were discussing this last night in the Derby. How do you explain this turnaround that the Orioles have made in the last few years? I mean, they went from being, literally as doth the road doth thee, from the outhouse to the penthouse, baby.
Very impressive, especially considering the division that they play in. It's hard to traditionally overtake the Yankees and Red Sox, but the Blue Jays have had some good teams, and obviously Tampa Bay's had some very good teams, and it's just been hard for the Orioles year after year to break that ceiling. But finally, and that's just the thing. They drafted smart. Got some good young talent, very good young players,
and more still on the way.
And more still on the way.
Yeah.
In fact, they viewed a guy I think was like the number 2 prospect in their system last week or the week before, and then they viewed the number 1 guy who was a pitcher early on, but they sent him back down. It's kind of inconsistent, but he might be able to come back up and figure things out. But yeah, Baltimore has just really been a great success story, and really Camden Yards, one of the best ballparks in the big leagues.
That and PNC are probably the two most beautiful parks.
Great baseball town, tradition, it's great to see teams like the Orioles. And I'll bring up another team too, the Reds.
Yes, well, I was going to get to the Reds. I know that's your NL team. We'll be bringing in. We'll be doing a simulcast with WKRP with Dr. Johnny Fever here later in the broadcast. Provided no turkeys are put to death. I love seeing Baltimore making this turnaround that they have. Like I said, they were pretty god awful, and I'm not sure if I told the guys yet. Buck is also a bit of a wrestling fan too, not as much as baseball and football, but he is. He's a bit of a wrestling fan. He and I've had quite a few wrestling discussions over the years.
Are we talking, the older territorial days or current?
Golden.
Well, I'm not really much on modern day wrestling. I kind of still follow it from time to time, but I would say mainly 80s and 90s wrestling.
Okay.
Obviously, I have a soft spot for world class championship wrestling. If I had to pick one.
WCCW.
Yeah, Dallas.
If I had to pick one territory to make a comeback, it'd be WCCW.
Yeah, Dallas, Mid South, the Carolinas, Florida Championship Wrestling, Amarillo, St. Louis,
Minnesota, Minnesota,
Memphis, obviously. The AWA,
Portland.
Piper. Give me some Piper in Portland.
Yeah.
We actually
want to see Ohtani with the thick mustache.
What is it with you and mustaches, Matthew?
Especially Asians with mustaches.
It's the gimmick for the fantasy team. But
Haas, this year at our fantasy baseball draft, this young man. Yeah, wait a minute. This young man pretty much went with a strategy of drafting only 2 types of players: Asian players and gentlemen with mustaches. That was his
mustaches. There couldn't be no pencil mustaches.
Yeah, no Jonathan Waters mustaches. We're talking, Sam Elliott, Tom Selleck, Burt Reynolds stashes.
It's gotten me into the top 3 a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm not sure how my strategy did.
Now look what it's doing.
You and I are getting towards the baseball.
I would
So-
say the guy that's got the best mustache in the major leagues is the pitcher for the Braves. Speaking of the Braves, Strider.
Spencer Strider, he's got a decent stash. I will give
Yeah.
that to him.
That Gallon just struck out Otani.
Stop the presses. Otani just struck out.
Well, speaking of Otani, something that came up in the chat last night. We had our old buddy U-Tree and 5 Point Vids on last night. Obviously, we know Artie Moreno is basically the Hugh Culverhouse of baseball. This guy is a schmuck. This guy would try to steal a hot stove. But do you think with Trout obviously now being hurt, they're saying 4 to 8 weeks, Trout is in that huge contract. Do you think Otani gets dealt at the deadline? And if so, who's the buyers? Potential buyers?
Well, you talk about, the Mets proverbially kicking the can down the road. That
Oh,
also,
Christ.
I mean, you have two of the best players in the MLB this century.
Yes.
You can't figure out how to. You can't even contend for a wild card. How is that possible?
I was trying to think of I thought about Hugh Culverhouse because obviously, that early Bucks team, they had some talent, but not near that level of
At
talent.
least that Bucks team made it to an NFC Championship game.
Yes, they did. They did.
So at least they had that going for them. I mean, the Angels with Trout and Otani, they've never had a postseason game. Trout has never won a postseason game. He only played in one playoff series and he got swept. That's his only playoff appearance.
Can you remember in your lifetime? It's tough for me to think of a player as good as Trout who has just had nothing to help him out. I know. I think I'm trying really great, but just never that have had no help whatsoever. But it's tough to think of one.
Well, football comparison. The Chicago Bears had Gale Sayers and Nick Butkus.
Very true.
And they struggled.
Really bad.
That's the closest comparison I could find.
Didn't they also have Ditka at tight end?
No, it was
They
like
hit the
seconds
helmet.
away from
They had Ditka there for a while too. That they got rid of him shortly thereafter. But it was mainly Butkus and Sayers. They had nothing else around them.
Was it Orbital?
And the Bears, they struggled.
Yeah, it's just tough to. It's sad.
Of course, we're in the same division as the Packers. That's one reason with the Lombardi Packers. That was one reason, but still, you have Butkus and Sayers. At least you got to do something. That's the same. That's what I get with the Angels.
Now, how can you imagine the ranting and raving if your old buddy Kevin's team, the Stros, were to snag Mr. Otani?
I'll tell you what, whoever gets Otani at the deadline could possibly be the World Series favorite, regardless of who it is. Because you got a deluxe hitter and a very good pitcher.
Yes. But and obviously, as we were saying last night, it's going to be a rental for 1 year because I can't think of a team that's going to.
Unless, a very big time like the Dodgers. If the Dodgers got Otani at the deadline.
Oh, please don't curse in here, Buck. we can't. I can't handle that.
Hypothetical. Just hypothetically speaking, say Otani goes to the Dodgers. I think.
Yeah, the Yankees are all well. I don't think the Yankees are going to be buying because with Judge gone, they've really trickled down.
I would not. If I was the Yankees, I would just
Not anything they want.
No, they're fighting each other.
maybe sit back and just load up for next season.
I'm trying to. Texas could be a buyer, at least for.
Texas would be intriguing. They would be intriguing. I don't know if they're willing to pull the trigger on it because they're going to have to give up a lot of good young talent and being in the same division too.
Yep.
It'd be a steep price to pay, but obviously, if Otani gets them to the World Series, you can say, "Hey, it's worth it." But it's a big time gamble.
You are so
I don't know if the Rangers are going to roll the dice. Just to be honest with you.
Well, looking at a team that's quite conspicuous by their absence in this All Star game, something I wanted to discuss with you: the Oakland Athletics. Because I was just thinking the other day about their owner who conspired with Bowie Kuhn to institute the DH and brought in orange baseballs and paid guys bonuses for mustaches and the whole. And I can never remember the guy's name. Charles Finley, yes.
They're not good.
This Oakland A's team, and Haas, you've been watching baseball longer than I've been alive. You know the game better than anybody. Is this the worst team that you've ever seen? They are on pace to be worse than the 64 Mets. They are on pace to be worse. But is this the worst team you've ever seen in your life?
They're up there. The only other team the Astros. You might remember the Astros were horrific.
Oh yeah.
In the early 2010s, they had some terrible teams back then, and the Tigers. I think in 2003, the Tigers had the worst all-time record in the American League, in the modern-day American League. Now, give Oakland credit though; they've won a few games. In fact, they beat the Braves. They took 2 or 3 from the Braves not too long ago. So at least they haven't really thrown in the proverbial towel. I mean, they've just out talented most games, but they've kind of given a lot of good teams some fits.
So by my calculation, this is just my Van Buren school in arithmetic. So at the current pace, the Oakland Athletics are going to finish 44 and 118.
Still worst team of all time?
Yeah, that would be the worst team, I think, by 2 games.
Got to be, yeah.
Let's see, 1964 Mets.
So
they were 53 and 109. So yeah, this Athletics team. Let's see.
So what you're saying, Cap, is they have to win 3 more games
to keep them out of that percentage?
Well, presently they're on pace to be 44 and 118. The 64 Mets were 53 and 109. So the Athletics are well on. They're well on track to being the worst thing ever took a professional baseball.
Look at all them Rangers. 5. There are 5 Rangers on the field right now.
The whole squad.
All right, well, to Dave's point, Buck, I'll let you address this one. Kansas City, I know you follow Kansas City a fair amount. God rest our good friend, Wild Bill Talbot,
yes.
Maybe the greatest Royals fan of all time.
Yes.
Still a shame that there is not a plaque or a statue for that man in Sallisaw, Oklahoma. Obviously, we know if we had him on this show with a live mic, God knows what he would say about Kansas City right now. But I'll cheers to Wild Bill. What's your take right now on the Royals? Because I don't think they're as bad as their record indicates. Because they're one of those teams that, yes, they will have, but they tend to make little runs here and there. You count out Kansas City, then all of a sudden, a few years later, they're in contention again. So they do seem to figure it out over time overall, but they can have some clunkers like right now.
Well, and I think,
and thank God for this, they make my White Sox look good right now. We're so bad that the Royals are envious of us.
Well, see, that's the other thing. Oakland is in the same division as 2 very good teams in Texas and Houston, and Seattle's kind of starting to figure things out too.
Yep.
Kansas City, on the other hand, they're in the weakest division in all of baseball.
Yes.
So you could make a case that the Royals really are worse than the Athletics.
I don't quite know if I would subscribe to that one. Dave chiming in with some old faces from World Class. I really wish I was watching. This is going to sound pathetic. I was watching an old episode of Walker, Texas Ranger the other day, and they actually filmed an episode in the Sportatorium. And I just
old famous sportatorium.
That was the building that had 9 lives. You could not kill that sumbitch. And all the stories. There was a shoot interview that Bill Moody, aka Percy Pringle III, did with James E. Cornett. They were discussing, the sportatorium and the stories that Pringle told about that building. He said, it was the building that had 2 kind of rats, 2-legged and 4-legged. Some of the guys would get there, at the start of the day, fling open the door with 22 pistols and start shooting the rats. Fritz von Erich was God, and the Von Erichs could do no wrong.
No.
The health department never came to inspect them. I think he said it was something like 4 or 5 years before they ever changed the grease out of the fryers at the snack stand. He said that's why the fries were so good.
Exactly.
He said they drained that thing. There were rat bones in there.
The people didn't care about the food, how bad the food was. They didn't care if they, ran into a rat in the restroom or all that. I mean, people want to go to the sportatorium. I mean, this was their Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
This was their Fenway Park. They want to go to the sportatorium.
Yeah, and you had the outlet before Fritz got it that tried to burn the thing down for the insurance money. He wasn't a very good arsonist. Only got about half the building. That's why there was that big aluminum siding wall. It was half a building. But my God, what a venue! I mean, the bowl, and I mean, you watch that footage. The people were just going absolutely batshit.
Like I said, I wish the young generation.
He's talking to you guys. Oh, he's talking to you guys.
Like follow wrestling back
in the territories.
The territorial wrestling. Oh my! You didn't care about the WWF then. No one cared about the WWF.
They were seen as the worst because they were cartoons.
I mean, it was like basically a New York Northeast thing. No one cared about the WWE. Yeah. It was world class. And I come from an area where there was a lot of people that like Mid-South wrestling because we got stations, and that's what one of the Shreveport TV stations was where it had the studio where they filmed Mid-South. So I got both Mid-South and world class.
And Memphis. Were you able to get Memphis too? Where you were at?
Nope.
Memphis didn't reach there.
Didn't get Memphis.
Now, David.
What about Houston with Paul Bosch when he was running? Were you able to pick up Houston or Amarillo?
Nope.
See, this is back in the antenna days, boys. You had to know how to the bunny ears. You just had to fiddle it just right.
Yep.
We got David here. He's one of our good friends and not the biggest WWE fan currently. He's a wrestling fan, but not a WWE fan.
Yeah. Triple H made a comment that Vince McMahon was the guy who took wrestling out of bars. I was like, you ever hear of a guy named Sam Munchnick? You ever hear of a guy named Bill Watts? You ever hear?
Dave will take any chance he gets to, shoot and shit on those fans that talk shit.
Eddie Graham, Jerry Jarrett. I mean, how many names? Anywho, nice little sidetrack there. Looking at so middle of the second, still nothing. Haas, what are your thoughts on the recent rules changes? The pitch clock, the bigger bases. What are your thoughts on
Buck
that?
is a great person to ask that.
I've liked some of the changes they've made. I think the pitch clock has really done wonders. Now,
I love it. I love the pitch clock.
I'm kind of.
I've grown to like the pitch clock. It makes the game faster.
Shouldn't be a timed game. There's no clocks in baseball. But
I think
the pitch timer has really helped.
Well, if I remember correctly, it was already in the rule book.
The Ghost Runner rule.
I hate the Ghost Runner, but if I remember correctly,
me and Devin were just talking about that we hate the runner on second after extra inning.
Like I'm trying to remember.
You want the game to go faster.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna give both of these guys a chance to
20-inning game.
Easily.
And when I think of like fast runners and stuff, and I think about the old baseball games, I think of Andrew McCutchen always having like 100 speed in every baseball game. Imagine having someone like him. I don't know if there's anyone really
Just on second to start the inning.
Andrew McCutchen was the type of person that could steal from first to third without you even looking.
You'll have to forgive Devin. He's only 20 years old. Have you forgotten a guy by the name of Ricky Henderson?
Yeah, Ricky Henderson.
I'm just talking about more recent.
Lou Brock.
Devin is way too young to know Lou Brock.
Devin is everybody's little brother. We're kind of, educating him on.
It's mostly baseball you need to educate me on because I didn't really get too into that when I was younger. I know a lot about like older basketball and football. Baseball is not one of them, or hockey.
We don't know shit about hockey.
No.
Yeah, hockey's not our sport.
Hockey? I thought Wayne Gretzky was still playing.
Bro, we grew up in the heart of Missouri. There ain't no hockey in the heart of Missouri.
Missouri won the Stanley Cup a few years ago. So
Yeah, St. Louis did win a Stanley Cup. Well,
Yeah, but how long
speaking
did it
of-
take them to win it?
Well, I was saying, speaking of long inning games, you were at the ballpark for like was it 18 inning they played Baltimore?
35 minutes.
Good God. How many hot dogs
Every
during that game?
Watch the whole thing.
How many minutes was it?
6 hours and 35 minutes. And it was a game that
Okay,
started.
so that's way more than what I
7:05.
thought I heard him say. I thought you said 105 minutes.
How many hot dogs and sodas did you consume during that game?
Quite a bit. And true story, I went with several sports writers that
Mhm.
night. A couple of them were drinking beers
Yeah,
in the course of the game.
as you do in Texas when it's hotter than hell.
They lost their drunkenness. They were back to being sober. That's how long the game lasted.
They went from sober to drunk and back to being sober.
Yes.
That's how I feel with WrestleMania when you start early for the like.
I will say, God bless the Kansas City Royals because I live about 7 minutes away from the AA team, the Naturals.
Yep.
And I can't remember. It's either Tuesday or Thursday nights. They've got it's like $2 or $3, double size beers, like $2 or $3, and the tickets are cheap. And I'm sure you've been to the Naturals. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a great place to watch a ball game.
Love going there. Love.
But you could go there with $20, buy a ticket, and be good and soused by the seventh inning.
So Devin had a question for Buck because they just they're bringing up the fact that Corbin Carroll is a rookie in the All Star game. As we get a dinger to left, Devin is asking: who is the first rookie to get into the All Star game?
Ever?
If you guys can remember.
Well, they started the All Star game in 1930, so that's a little bit before.
Pretty good.
I believe the best rookie performance, or the first big time rookie performance from a player, was Ted Williams in the 40. He was in World War II, 42 to 45. I think it was Ted Williams' rookie year. Was it 1940, 1939? Williams' rookie year where he
39.
Yeah, Ted Williams, 1939. His rookie year when he got in to the All Star game, he had one of the all time best rookie performances. That I do know, but as far as
I got one for you. Mark the Bird Fidrich, 76.
Mark the Bird,
He started the All Star game that year, 76.
holy smokes, a rookie starting the All Star.
Yeah.
As a pitcher?
Yep.
Yeah.
Who's got the most All Star appearances?
I think it's Willie Mays.
I thought it was Willie Mays. I'm a bit of a trivia geek, so I do know quite a bit, but
Trivia questions, not really necessarily the
I was gonna say either Mays or maybe Rose, because I know Rose made a ton of All Star games. Probably the most infamous of those being the crash into the catcher, which
Now, here's a good one for you. No one remembers who had the base hit that led to the Pete Rose collision at home with Ray Fosse.
I couldn't tell you.
No one. I mean, that's a good trivia question right there.
I wish I knew this.
Who had the walk-off hit that year? Who had the hit that led to the Rose Fosse collision?
See, that was not 1970,
I can tell you a single player.
76? 1970? Okay,
Yep.
so well that was before.
Yep.
1970 All Star.
Gonna go with Mike Schmidt.
Really, it's a guy I don't think anyone's ever heard of him, and really he's an obscure guy. That might be his claim to fame, though. He had the walk-off hit that led to the collision.
And looks like the NL has brought.
Yeah, he played for the Cubs that year.
Okay. Now speaking of the, we'll just. I'm trying to think, how do we want to approach this one? They just switched pitchers for Mitch Keller into the second inning, going top of the third. Lost my train of thought there. In the history of all our games, some have been good, some have been meh, some have been, kind of hem-haw in the middle. What do you think has been, at least in your lifetime, that you've gotten to watch the best All-Star game? The one that just everything delivered.
That's a good one. I would say the '89 All-Star game just immediately comes to mind. That was the game where Bo Jackson hit the leadoff homer for the American League, and they went on to win that game. That was also a game where
it was also one of the mistreated children of Hugh Culverhouse.
Yeah, speaking of, you just went full circle.
Talk about those real estate deals, Bo. Well, everyone talks about, such and, John Elway refused to play for the Colts.
Yeah, Elway showed up a Colt.
Yeah, Eli Manning refused to play for the Chargers. Bo Jackson refused to play for the Buccaneers.
Should have been. I think Elway made a good decision.
Yeah.
No to the Colts. He got drafted and was like, no.
But if Bo did play for the Buccaneers right out of the gate, who knows? He might have gotten hurt his rookie year. He never would have got to play baseball.
No.
He never would have got to play. So.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? Who knows?
See, where was I? I had it pulled up here. I was gonna. We did this last night with our other guests. We'll do this with you. We'll go through the standings real quick just to get your thoughts. Starting the AL East: Tampa, Baltimore, Toronto, Yankees, and Red Sox. That's presently in order. Baltimore's 2 games out. Blue Jays are 7 back. Yankees 8, Boston 9. What are you seeing from this division second half of the season?
Well, it was looking like Tampa was going to be the best team in baseball, and then they've kind of hit a bit of a rough patch. They've kind of dropped a few games going into break.
That was a hell of a streak, though.
Yeah. And really, I still think Tampa is the better team in the division. I know Baltimore's making a good push. I still think Tampa, when it's all said and done, Tampa's going to win the division. And I think, it's going to be odd. When was the last time the Yankees and Red Sox were the 2 worst teams
in the cellar?
That's a good trick. I don't even know that one. So
I remember when you were on our charity drive show to start the year, and I said I was like, look at Baltimore's going to be cagey. Like they may surprise some people this year. I'm doubling down. Baltimore's winning the division this year.
I wouldn't be shocked.
AL Central, I wish we could skip over this, but I'll try and go as quickly as I can. Well, you mentioned. Well, we'll start with the team at the top. You mentioned
better team on paper. I think the Twins are
yeah. Well, you mentioned Baltimore brought up a pitcher, didn't do too good, went down to the minors. Like, you take a look at Ryan there. You can't see him, can you? Anyway, major league joke. Are awful, but they're only 5 back. I mean, they're Detroit can win this division. It's not mathematically out of the realm of possibility, especially if
Kansas City still has a chance.
Kansas City's 19.5 out. Chicago's 8 out. At this point, I mean, obviously I can't stand Cleveland or the Twins because they're the ones that just constantly beat us over the head with a sledgehammer. So at this point, I'm cheering for Detroit just so that Detroit can have something. Although the Lions may do something. I never thought I would say that in my entire life. Excuse me. The coach they've got, he somehow
Yes.
knows how to chap ass in just the right way
Yes.
to get guys to follow him. I mean, applause to him. But holy smokes. Anyway, let's leave that shit box division behind. Your division, Rangers are up by 2 games on the Stros. Seattle's hanging in there at 6 back. Angels 7 back. And then the A's at 27.5. I see Seattle making a bit of a surge here. Texas has cooled off a bit lately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Houston, though, hasn't been all that impressive. They haven't been Houston. They've just been Houston. But
They've had some injuries too.
But I think Seattle could definitely make a push there.
That might be the best race in any division once all said and done. I think the AL West is going to be the best division come September because those 3 teams.
I think it's going to be the NL Central. But anyway, they're coming up here in just a bit. National League East. It seems like
back to the AL West for a
Go
second.
ahead.
Even though obviously I'm a Rangers fan and all that, and I want the Rangers to win the division. I mean, it's going to be hard to fend off Houston. Houston's the champs. Mm-hmm. They know how. They're going to find a way. I just got to feel they're going to find a way.
And phenomenal trash cans. They refuse containers on the planet.
Rangers, if they finish second, hey, that they've exceeded my expectations all season.
So, yeah, I mean, just imagine if DeGrom was healthy.
Hey, as long as they make the playoffs, I don't care where they finish. Nobody thought they'd make the playoffs going into the season, so they've exceeded expectations. I probably, like I said, I'll lean towards Houston simply because of the championship experience, and then I'll pick Texas and then Seattle. But that's going to be a fun race come September.
And then we got National League East. I think this one is the Braves to lose, unless I don't see any of these teams.
No one's catching the Braves. Now the Marlins. No one's talking about the Marlins. Always put together a nice season, but that they're not going to catch the Braves. But I see them finishing second.
And then the division I think is going to be the best, and getting to your National League team, the Cincinnati Reds at the All Star break are leading the National League Central, and the Cardinals are in the cellar. Did you think back on March 30th when the season started, this would be the division standings right now? Cincinnati leading the division, St. Louis in the cellar.
And they were talking about the Reds having another god-awful year, hovering around the 100 loss mark.
Yeah, this was another big topic last night. I wish you would have been around for it, but what is going on in Great America Ballpark?
I think it's
what the hell is happening?
I think it's just one of those, and you say this too. Just a team come out of nowhere and just have like the Orioles last year. I mentioned the Orioles. The Orioles did the same thing last year. No one gave them a shot, and they were, hanging around for much of the season. But the difference is the Reds, the NL Central. The Reds have a very good chance. Even though they lost 2 out of 3 to Milwaukee over the weekend.
Yeah,
I'd say the Reds are in good shape going into the second half of the season, and I got the Reds winning the division.
Milwaukee's problem is they can't hit. They've got pretty solid pitching staff, but and I can't figure out how in that ballpark, Miller Park, I still call it Miller Park.
So do I.
How in the world they can't hit in that park? I mean, that thing is a bandbox.
Yes, and in the Reds, they really don't have the pitching. They got the hitting. They really don't have the pitching.
Right.
So they pretty much had to outslug their opponents, to have a chance. But yeah, it's going to be a two-team
I
race
feel like
between the Reds and Milwaukee.
The only thing I worry about with the Reds is, and what this is weird, the only team in that division with a positive run differential are the Cubs. Every other team has a negative run differential.
Yeah.
Cubs are 7 back. Brewers are 1 game back. Pirates was a nice story at the start of the year, but
Yeah.
it was one of those hot air balloons that you knew could only kind of go so far. You wanted to go as high as it could, but it was limited.
Yeah. I'm with you there, and really the Pirates were in that story there the first 3 weeks or so, but yeah, they've really built back down to earth.
And getting to the team in the cellar, I want your take on this, because obviously the Cardinals have caused you a lot of. There's still a lot of open wounds that the Cardinals have caused you over the years.
We still don't bring up 2011.
We won't speak of it, but. How do you explain a team like St. Louis who has consistently, if not been great, been really good, and all of a sudden they are just – I can't remember a St. Louis team being this bad in my lifetime.
No. There was one, 1990 they were and the year when McGuire went off.
Right, 98.
Cardinals had a bad 98. People forget the Cardinals really were a bad team that year.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Stone Cold has
He could open one up, but
so really the only other Cardinals team in my lifetime that's been this bad was the 1990 team, and they couldn't.
Would you rather be baseball or
they
football?
hit like 60 homers. They had no home run hitters.
And a golden jacket.
That year, and it was just an awful team. But man, this Cardinals team this year, wow, I can't figure it out. Because you think, hey, Cardinals,
they don't rebuild; they just reload.
Reload. They'll find a way to win at least 85 games again, and we keep waiting for that big run, and they've never really got on that big run yet. But I'm still not going to count them out because they're the Cardinals. Somehow, they'll find.
Remember, was it the 2000? Was it the 2006 or 2007 season where they got into the playoffs with like 82 wins? They just
and won the World Series. So,
yeah. And then the NL West, the 2 biggest surprises of the year, other than Cincinnati, is how great the Diamondbacks have been and how horrible the Padres have been. Dodgers and Diamondbacks, they're tied for the division lead right now. Giants are 2.5 back. Giants, they're like the cockroaches. You just can't kill them. You can't smoke them out. I remember going into the season with the lineup that the Padres had. I thought, I'm 36 years old. I'm like, I have never seen a lineup like this in my life. And they have screwed the pooch in so many ways. The Padres have Padre'd when I thought they had ran out of ways to screw up.
They were about World Series going to I picked the Padres to go to the World Series before the season started. So they're the flip side of the Reds and the Diamondbacks and the Rangers.
We got another gray up there.
Greatly been they've been arguably the biggest disappointment. Like I said, with that talent, with that lineup, I got a pretty good, fairly good pitching staff too. How have they been this bad? How are they where they are right now?
It reminds me a little bit of some of those Yankee teams that Steinbrenner would cobble together with, just pay this guy, pay that guy, pay this guy.
No chemistry. They've got talent. They just don't have the chemistry. They don't have the chemistry.
It's still hard for me to realize that George Steinbrenner is not alive. I still can't. It's like I think of the Yankees. I think of Babe Ruth. I think of Derek Jeter. I think of George Steinbrenner and Reggie Jackson and Billy Martin. Those are the names that come to mind. And it's like, Don Steinbrenner's long since, been worm food. It's I don't know why it's like he's still alive. He will never die.
Well,
the thing is, it's like, that shit, Steinbrenner.
My son's running the team now, but he's He's like
I was a little more close-fisted.
He's more quiet. He's more laid back than his dad.
Hasn't been suspended.
Yeah, he's not controversial. He say one thing controversial about him. He can't.
Hasn't been voiced by Larry David in an NBC sitcom. Oh boy!
Yeah, it's definitely not like father like son with House Steinbrenner.
Well, I'll tell you this. Speaking of father like son, I think the son may be worse than the father is Mark Davis, son of Al Davis, who owns my Raiders. I almost called them the Oakland Raiders. I just holy jumping frog balls.
Mark Davis. The only good thing he's done is pick his father.
I thought, and I loved Al Davis before dementia and senility kicked in, because he was that owner that everybody wanted. He was the guy who would give the middle finger to the league. He did it his way. It was great for establishing, bringing in minority players and giving minority coaches. I mean, he did so many great things for the league. And then he went off the deep end, and the last 10 years or so of his tenure was like, it's like a George Carlin joke, or no, it was Robin Williams. Like it's like an old uncle that comes to Thanksgiving who's just been put on a new medication but hasn't quite gotten the dosage right. That was kind of Al Davis. It's like there's got to be some kind of he just can't get the dosage right.
Yeah.
But then Mark Davis comes along, and I'm thinking, okay, he's a fairly hands-off owner, which can be a good thing. And he, Reggie McKenzie was a great GM. That team was on the rise. And then all of a sudden, he lost his damn mind and brought in Chucky.
Yeah.
And
I'm interested.
as a coach, I always loved John Gruden. Up until things, came out and whatnot. I still think he was a great coach, but my thoughts on him as a human being, but that as it may, it's like things were going just fine. We were, steadily rising, and then we bring in Gruden, we bring in Mayock, we get rid of McKenzie, we try to sign that just useless piece of shit Antonio Brown. Who? My God!
And then drafting, Henry Ruggs, that didn't help either in the long run.
No, it doesn't help when your first round pick gets blasted drunk and kills somebody. That doesn't hurt, or that doesn't help. The thing, we traded Khalil Mack, which at the time I wasn't all that upset about it, because we couldn't afford to pay both him and Carr. We had to make a choice, and in NFL these days, you pay the quarterback over anybody else. We got a good haul for him. We got 2 first-round draft picks for him. But then Gruden and Mayock screwed up our draft for 2 years in a row, and we just drafted schmuck after schmuck after schmuck. And now we're just it's like we feel like we're back to the Jamarcus Russell days. Even though we're not, on paper, we're not that bad, but we're just, we were nice incline, we were doing good, and then Rob Dillon's off his bomb.
Cap, did you see, or it was like a couple minutes ago, that we have another new record set this year for an All-Star game?
What was that?
The most players on a single team on an starting lineup since the 1976 Reds. We have 5 Texans, and then 1976 Texas Rangers, and then the Reds had.
That I actually need to grab myself a drink and use the restroom. But since you brought that up, Dev, I'm going to let one of the all-time great baseball aficionados explain to you why the Big Red Machine was arguably the greatest team of all time. So, Haas, the floor is yours. Educate these gentlemen as to why the Big Red Machine was, maybe the greatest team of all time.
How long did they reign for, Buck?
They won. They went to the World Series in '70. They lost. Went back to the World Series in '72 and lost. And they got back to the World Series '75, won it in '7 against Boston, and then went back to the World Series 76, swept the Yankees, and that was the era right there, 70 through 76. And you could say 75, 76. But obviously, people talk about Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, two good players to start. Joe Morgan.
A lot of people forget Joe Morgan was on that team.
Joe Morgan was like the spark plug to the offense. Pete Rose may have been the leadoff guy, and all that, but Joe Morgan made that team go.
I think that's the only player that I can really remember from that era of the Reds was Joe Morgan.
Yeah.
I don't know much about that era, but I know of Joe Morgan.
Yeah.
His accolades and how great of a fundamental player he was in that era.
Now, and not to mention, arguably the greatest catcher of all time, Johnny Bench, and Perez, Tony Perez.
Another guy that doesn't get it do.
Before Ricky Henderson. Before Ricky Henderson, didn't Joe Morgan have the stolen base record, or was that someone else?
Lou Brock.
Lou Brock.
Now, Joe Morgan could steal, but Morgan was a calculated base stealer.
Yeah, he was stealing whenever the opportunity was right.
He in the right moment, in the right situation, when they needed it, Joe was going to steal. So 4 official Hall of Famers, should be 5 from that team. Well, 6 if you want to count Sparky Anderson.
Tremendous manager too. Tremendous manager. We saw that with Detroit later on, and that was the Reds shouldn't have fired Sparky Anderson.
No. But then also, sadly, the Reds to be the worst owner in history, Marge Schott.
Well, that was before Schott.
I would say after she took over when her husband died.
So Schott came after the owner at the time. But great, tremendous team. Now, pitching wise, they had some decent starters. They didn't have the 90s Braves rotation or anything like that, but
right.
They got the job done. They had some starting pitching that could get the job done. They had a pretty good bullpen too. But and people don't talk about their pitching. The hitting would obviously overwhelm everything else. But the other thing is just the chemistry. Now, Pete Rose and Johnny Bench didn't get along. They weren't friends off the.
Why?
Well, I've understood that. I think they've patched things up since time. I don't think they got because I've seen interviews with Rose where he just says Bench is the greatest catcher of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, but when they stepped in between the lines, the white lines,
right?
They thought that winning was
they were on NXT.
Yeah, they were out to win.
One of my favorite Sparky Anderson stories in Ken Burns' baseball. They were interviewing Bill Lee, and they were talking about the '75 World Series, and before game 7, perhaps Sparky, his thoughts, regardless of the outcome of this game, my pitcher's going to the Hall of Fame. To which Bill Lee replied, regardless of the outcome of this game, I'm going to the Elliott Lounge. Another great book, The Wrong Stuff by Bill Lee.
Yes.
I've got it on my bookcase over there. Love me some Bill Lee.
Sadly, I do not have my copy of The Wrong Stuff. I need to get a copy of The Wrong Stuff again. Yes. I've read that in ages.
Well, I know how big a fan of Alex Rodriguez you are, and Bill Lee once said about Alex Rodriguez when they asked him, do you think Rodriguez is a good clutch hitter? And Bill Lee said, well, I will say this: it's awful hard to swing a baseball bat when you've got one hand around your throat.
Buck, I don't remember what you said. Are you going Nationals or American?
Who am I for?
Yeah, the National League or American League.
Well, I'm obviously, especially with 5 Rangers in the starting lineup, I got to root for the American League. But it's kind of funny, the National League's just been dominated by the American League like the last 2 decades, and you kind of wonder. And the National League's had better. I think they've had better teams in the American League in the All Star game, but they just fall short. It's like Mike Gundy against Oklahoma. check Mike Gundy's record in games against Oklahoma, and that's kind of a comparison American League and National League in the All Star game.
Mm-hmm. So I take it you're going American?
American. Well, before I was going to kind of get your thoughts a little. I was going to get your.
I will say the funny thing is the 2 years in that span where the National League won were the 2 years the Rangers went to the World Series, and that was when the All Star game had the winning league gets the home field advantage on the World Series rule, and the Rangers were the unfortunate recipients of having to go on the road to start both 2010, 2011.
Before I was wanting to get your opinion a little bit on some college football and NFL while we're doing this, but we do have a segment on this show that we call "Bring One." I didn't. You don't have to do it. It's just that we'll have a segment where you throw in a book or a movie or an album, something, but. For the education of the audience, this is the gentleman who got me into reading about baseball, not just watching. So I have a few select books here that I learned a lot about baseball from because of this guy. We have, first off, Beck as a Wreck.
Good one.
Very great baseball book. One that got him in trouble, if I remember. Was it? Oh no, it was this one. Yeah, the author of this one, Ball 4, Jim Booten, got him in some hot water.
Full book of all time.
Yes, fantastic. Another classic, The Bad Guys Won.
Yes.
That Mets team. If you remember the joke in Major League, the California Penal League. This was Sing Sing prison.
They were California Penal League All Stars.
Yes. Another one, Red Smith on baseball.
Now, one of the believe it or not, I do not have. I've never read that book, but I bet it's a
really. I could have swore that was one that you recommended, and then obviously The Wrong Stuff, Bill Lee. I could not actually find my Seasons in Hell. I'm not sure where it is, but the ones I found. So those are 5 books any baseball fan can start with, and get a good grasp on the game. So thank you, Buck, for getting me into so many great baseball books and loaning them to me through the years.
My pleasure.
So getting to a little bit of college football, I know you are a huge OU fan. OU is now, unfortunately, in my conference, the SEC.
Not for another year.
So one more season, and then they're in.
One more season in the Big 12, yeah.
So what are your, because you've seen their conference go from the Big 8 to the Big 12 to the Big 12 with only 8, and now going to the SEC. The way the landscape, because we used to watch a ton of college football together. What's your opinion on how this landscape has just been radically changing over the last decade in the sport?
Just unbelievable. I mean, to see all these big-time schools shifting leagues. I mean, who would have thought 20 years ago?
I would look at that as
you told me that in 20 years we would see OU and Texas go to the SEC. We'd see Nebraska go to the Big Ten. We'd see USC and UCLA go to the Big Ten. I'd have thought, man, you're out of your mind. Texas A&M, I'll throw in Texas A&M the SEC too. I say you're crazy. There's no way that's happening. But that just goes to show you how big, like money, money's a huge factor, and TV revenue, and trying to get into the playoff. And that has a big effect on these conference moves now.
As far as OU, obviously it's been a while since they've been, national championship level. They've so what are you seeing right now at Oklahoma University as far as ball? I mean, I'm not sure how things are going to work when they get into the SEC. I know all the homers around here are going to be, yeah, we get to play Texas again. Fuck you. Texas owns you. I say you, not us, because I no longer throw myself in that camp anymore. That the football team's a disgrace to football. Still love the baseball and basketball team, but the football team I hope catches gonorrhea and dies a slow, painful death. But OU in the SEC, I know you never thought you'd see this, but what do you see? Do you think they're going to rise, fall, just kind of stay?
Well, if you saw the schedule that they're playing next year in the SEC, might be the toughest one of any team in the SEC other than Vanderbilt. They've got some. They got Alabama next year. Obviously, they'll still play Texas. They OU kind of got the shaft in Texas, other than Texas will have Georgia, but other than that, the schedule makers for the SEC are kind of Texas. But I think this season, on paper, OU has one of the easier schedules in all of college football. There's no reason why they can't win at least 9-10 games this year with that schedule.
I don't think I've actually looked at Arkansas's schedule yet. I'd have to see what it is just to.
Now, Arkansas next year, Arkansas doesn't have to play either Alabama or Georgia.
Well, see, that's the tough thing is even when these dipshits lose, the fan base is like, oh, we still love them. When these dipshits win, they're like, oh, the greatest team, they're awesome. It's like, you people, I think of, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest after Jack Nicholson had the lobotomy. If you could do a GIF of Jack Nicholson with an Arkansas Razorback T-shirt on after he's got the lobotomy and he's just slobbering all over himself, that is an Arkansas Razorback fan.
and I was a Razorback too at one time, and I got I
well, as George Collins said, he was a Catholic until he reached the age of reason. You were a Razorback fan until you reached the age of sanity.
Indeed.
Oh boy!
But going back to OU, I think they'll be better than they were last year. I don't see them contending for a national title.
I think he's the best player of mine.
But
Otani's
a nice bounce back season. Go to a good bowl and win at least 10 games. And they need it. Going into the SEC next year, but they need a momentum boost. And if they can have a good season for the SEC, I think they'll be in pretty good shape.
As far as I think we lost him. Oh. Yeah, maybe they'll pop back in here. Anyway, looking at the what is going on here? Oh, anywho, looking at the NFL standings, what are your thoughts coming into the NFL season?
Well, it's going to be hard to pick against the Chiefs again. I see the Chiefs as the favorites going in. Obviously, if Mahomes and Kelsey stay healthy, that's the key. As long as they stay healthy, and as long as their other very good players stay healthy, they're going to be, right there. Probably going back to the Super Bowl and possibly winning it again. So, on paper, it's hard to go against the Chiefs.
Yeah, it is pretty tough to do so. Reed and Mahomes have become the next Belichick and Brady. I know I live in cowboy land, so it's pretty tough to deal with some of those knuckleheads, and somehow they keep making the playoffs year after year. but fortunately, they keep losing year after year. So I have this nightmare every year when Dallas makes the playoffs, and it's like, please don't let this happen. Please don't let this happen. Anyone but Dallas. Anyone but Dallas. And so far, knock on wood, Jerry Jones continues to shoot himself in the foot. It's like Lewis Black said about the George W. Bush administration. I gave George some rope, a lot of rope, and then he hung all of us with it. Which is kind of Jerry Jones in a shell nut. San Francisco, if they can just keep a quarterback upright, they may.
That's really, I'll probably go with the 49ers if Purdy comes back, he's healthy, because they've got everything else. I mean, they're loaded everything, everywhere else. Obviously, very good defense, but, they got to be healthy at the quarterback position. Philly, I think Philly's got a pretty good chance again. I would say, I'd say Philly and San Francisco are the two teams to beat in the NFC.
Yeah, the Rams may have a bounce back. Obviously, they were hurt. Tampa Bay even getting into the playoffs last year was,
Well, I'm hoping the Saints can have a bounce back here and make a run, win the division at least. I'm hoping the Saints, and especially with Derek Carr now at quarterback, I'm hoping the Saints can make some.
No, it's sad. I've got one NFL jersey hanging in my closet. It's Derek Carr. I love Derek. He led our team for years through good and through bad, and he was never a great quarterback, but he was damn good a lot of the time, and was able to, he had a lot of muck to shovel, and he was only given a garden, one of those little garden trowels to shovel it all with. So I really would like to see, and I can't stand the Saints, but I do love Derek Carr. So if the Saints succeed with Derek, I'll at least be fairly happy there for him, because and again, the Raiders they gave him a boot in the ass out the door, and he didn't even get his gold watch. So if he's able to somehow stick it to them in some way, albeit with the Saints, I'll allow it. It's like, Derek, if you can.
That's something else I'm counting on, hoping the change of scenery and wanting to prove something can help, motivate Carr with the Saints.
So a Razorback fan and WWE fan are basically the same group of fans. Yeah, I'm far more critical of them than I Gomez Adams. I'm Vince McMahon. Since he's made his return, that freaking stash of his.
Yeah.
I remember during that press conference where they were announcing, the sale to Prestige, and looking at that, I kept thinking, like, is he going to pull a Rudy Giuliani and just have the hair dye just leaking down his face? That guy has paralleled more paralegals and gotten him his dick in more bear traps, and somehow he is the Donald Trump of pro wrestling. It's like, no matter what he does, shit just, it's like everybody forgets about it. Let's see. Lions may do something this year. But obviously the big story this offseason has been Aaron Rodgers, going to the Jets. Not since the days of Joe Willie Namath has there been much noise made in the big rival. What are you seeing here? Is it how much does he elevate them? What are you seeing here?
I think he's a difference maker. I still think. I know, he's a bit unconventional, especially off the field. But, I mean, he's still a pretty darn good quarterback, and I think he'll be worth at least 3 more wins for the Jets this year. And I think they have a chance. I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but I think they can make the wild card and get in the playoffs. I think Rogers is going to win them a couple of ball games they have no business of winning.
Yeah, I mean, think about how many ball games the Packers had no business winning, and Rogers just did Rogers things.
Yeah.
Let's see, looks like it is top of the fifth, tied 1-1. God, I will never forget.
2 for 2, and drove in the Nationals' lone run so far.
Yeah, he is just a beast of a player. I will never forget that one All-Star game that the incomparable Bud Selig decided to call a tie.
That was, I think that was probably the last All-Star game I watched from start to finish. That 0-2 game.
That was the low point of the All-Star game. Like
no doubt.
Okay, it's like it can't get much worse than this.
Exactly. But they had to do the. I hate the rule then. Hate it now still. Whoever won the All-Star game got home field advantage. The league got home field advantage in the World Series. Still one of the dumbest rules ever. Well, that and the Ghost Runner rule. Those, they just do away with those two rules. Those are the two worst rules of all time in Major League Baseball, in my opinion.
At this point, I would take the winner of the All-Star gets the World Series over this Ghost Runner horse hockey.
Yeah, I mean, there should be incentive to win the All-Star game, but, it should be like a monetary incentive. You shouldn't penalize a team that, say, you had a team that won 100 games, 100-plus games, and they were the best team in baseball, yet they couldn't start the World Series on their home field because their league lost the All-Star game.
And they could have not even had guys in that game. I mean, it's exactly. Just it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Although I will last night, that guy I do not get. I mean,
who are you talking about now?
Rob Manfred, the current commissioner of Major League Baseball. He makes me yearn for Bud Selig.
I never thought I would miss Bud Selig, but yeah, Rob Manfred actually makes me miss Bud Selig, and I was no fan of Bud Selig, obviously.
No,
Manfred he's done nothing to promote the game. He's only hindered it.
And I think that that one line that's going to come back to her, that hunk of metal line that he made.
Yes.
It's like,
yeah.
Can you imagine, Goodell, asshole as he is, saying that about the Lombardi Trophy?
No.
Can you imagine,
Goodell, but yeah, at least he cares about his product. Manfred doesn't.
Yeah. Or even the late great, I say this joking, the late great Harold Ballard, if he had referred to the Stanley Cup as that hunk of metal.
Yeah.
God. Yeah. Is Harold Ballard the worst owner in the history of sports?
Well, Donald Sterling.
Okay. I may have to grant you that one.
Hugh Culverhouse. I mean, that's probably, the Mount Rushmore of bad sports owners would be Culverhouse, Donald Sterling, Harold Ballard, and I'm going to have to think of the fourth one.
You couldn't put Steinbrenner or Jones on there because as much of their assholes, they were successful.
Right.
And I'm trying. That guy who owns the Knicks is.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Dolan. Yeah. He's pretty schmucky.
Yeah, he's a loose cannon too. So yeah, that'd be the Mount Rushmore of bad sports owners right there.
And also, I'm not sure if you've had the unfortunate pleasure of hearing his side music project, but let's just say if you're James Dolan is not
He's not even the best owner that plays a musical instrument.
He's no Don Henley. I'll put it that way. Jim Irsay. God, Irsay. I have constantly struggled with trying to figure out what the fuck is with Jim Irsay. Like, there's times when he's made moves, getting Peyton Manning, getting Andrew Luck, but then he hires guys like Grigson. He gets rid of guys like Frank Reich. It's like for every stupendous thing he does a monumental just fart.
And hire Jeff Saturday.
Oh Lord,
with no coaching experience, and still
he coached high school. Let's give him that.
Still, I mean, yeah, but still, and even considering him for the full-time job, yeah.
Well, speaking of high school, I know that's your terrain. Eastern Oklahoma, and obviously, with SB Live, you've branched out. What's going on in the old stomping grounds with Sallisaw, Poto? What's going on with all the old teams?
Well, Sallisaw is going to have a brand new coach this year, and it's a guy that has a great track record. Brandon Tyler, formerly at Diane, was at Gore. Did wonders with both those. Took both those teams to a state championship game. Sallisaw, wow, they went 0-10 last year. How do you go 0-10 at a tradition-rich place like Sallisaw?
Is Virgil Terry still alive?
He is.
It might be time to pull a Bud Grant and bring him back.
Yeah, or bring back Ron Lancaster as head coach, but no, I think Brandon Tyler is the right man for the job, and he knows the area. He's, like I said, he's had success wherever he's been. He knows turnaround situations. Obviously, 4A is going to be a step up from Class A where he's at previously, but I really think he can turn it around, and I think it'd be good to have Sallisaw back competing for district titles again. Now,
well, as far as the baseball team, I know Coach Elvis. I always forget his last name. He retired long.
Larry Coleman. I got a Larry Coleman story for you.
Oh boy! Glad I just opened a fresh beer.
I saw him this past spring. He's an assistant coach now with Fort Gibson.
Really?
I saw them at the state tournament, and they had a weather delay in their quarterfinal game. So I went down the field to say hi to Larry, and we talked for several minutes. So, I mean, it was good to catch up with him again.
I always loved Larry. He was
yes.
He was such a great guy. He and Wild Bill were two brothers from different mothers.
Yes, and the coach that replaced Larry Coleman, I will never mention his name again. I try not to think about that guy.
Really?
Because he ran, he was the flip side of Larry Coleman.
Mm.
He didn't take the time to get to know you. So
just from
at least the coach
from outhouse to from penthouse to outhouse, more or less.
Played for Coach Coleman, so he's kind of brought. Now I haven't met him personally yet, but I've heard good things about him. I've heard he's like a young Larry Coleman, so I'm hoping to meet him someday.
Yeah, let me that whole Sallisaw program, football, baseball, just they were always so welcoming. To,
Yes.
Anywhere we went, or for the 2 years I was apprenticing under you, it was like always look forward to the Sallisaw game. You knew you were going to be like family.
Now, do you remember the coach for Sallisaw back in those days, Craig Benson?
Yes, I do.
He's now doing color commentary for their TV, their local TV channel. He does
up in the booth, like we're really.
Yes.
Man, you remember the Sallisaw buffets? The smorgasbord of treats that would just be laid out on that
table. Here's something else too. They took out the food in the press box.
Oh, hellfire!
And this
You've got to be kidding me.
Before COVID, they took out the food in the press box. So hopefully the food in the press box can make a comeback like the football team can. Maybe that's why the football team, hit the skids, because they took the food out in the press box. Miranda, to all you high school football teams, always have food in the press box.
Yes. Well, I mean, on that note, obviously it's been, was it 2 years now since you've been away from the Times Record? Is it 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, it'll be 2 years in September, yeah.
Okay. As someone who, you've watched sports journalism change dramatically over your career. You've seen it go from typewriters to word processors to computers to digital to now whatever this age it is that we're in. I don't even know if there's really a name for it, but over your long career and seeing the business change and where you're at now, obviously, doing very well. What is that change like going from literally from print to digital? Like, obviously we went from print to digital about 10, 15 years ago, more or less, roughly, but literally going from old school newspapers to what you're doing now.
It's unbelievable, because when I started out my first job out of college, we didn't have the internet. In fact, we didn't have computerized pagination. We would print all our stories and headlines and stuff, and we would still have to paste it up on this pasteboard.
Mm-hmm.
That's how far back. That's how long in the business I've been in.
Yeah.
I even, had to learn to develop my own film. I was in a dark room developing film from time to time.
You were a photographer for a while.
Well, my first job, I took pictures, but I didn't have to develop. We actually had a guy that developed the photos, so I didn't have to worry about developing the photos.
Okay.
My second job, you had to develop the film, even though I wasn't a primary photographer. So I had to learn, and that stuff they don't teach you in journalism school. So unfortunately, there were some batches that didn't turn out too good, photo batches that didn't turn out too good. So I had to learn the hard way of what it was like to really develop pictures. So,
which is really becoming a lost art. That's another thing that I'm kind of sad to see go is the art of film. I mean, yes, digital cameras, they can do everything but scratch your balls and make pancakes. But there's something to me that has been lost with, and not just, it's in movies, it's in, in every, I really miss film. Like there was an art to film. I know things change, and oftentimes they do change for the better, but the nostalgist in me yearns for some sort of connection with film. I collect, vinyl records. I love analog music. I'm not, I mean, I still listen to a lot of music digitally.
It's kind of a similar deal with newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I had a discussion with a sports writing colleague of mine the other day. You know what else you don't see much of anymore? Newsstands.
Yep. You see them in airports.
Right.
You see them a little bit at, Walmart, Target, but you don't see your corner newsstand anymor.
And we had two newsstand buildings in Fort Smith, and they're both gone.
Mm-hmm. I last time I was in Fort Smith was October of last year. I was there for one night, and I don't want to defecate upon my hometown, because I've always seen Fort Smith as my hometown as opposed to Van Buren, even though that's where I grew up. But I've always considered Fort Smith my hometown. But every time I go back there, it seems like it dies a little bit more every single time, and it's sad.
But guess what? Good news. We finally opened up the U.S. Marshals Museum.
I did see that.
Finally.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, the historian in me. I love stuff like that, and actually, one of my mother's, wishes, like she said, that was one of the things that was kind of keeping her alive, was she wanted to be able to live long enough to go to that thing. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But so I have to make that pilgrimage at some point to go to the Marshall's Museum. But it's good that having downtown Fort Smith could be so much more than what it is, because I've seen it be more than what it is. It can be something.
You still got some places there downtown, restaurants, bars.
Yeah. Landry still serves up some damn good grub. I know you're big on the Cajun food. I actually made some jambalaya this weekend.
How'd it come out?
I'm not going to toot my own horn. My Cajun game still needs work, but I will say this: my jambalaya is getting pretty good. It was andouille sausage.
Oh yeah.
Chopped chicken, onion, celery, bell pepper, garlic, bacon, tomatoes, diced tomatoes, tomato paste. I do it Creole, not Cajun. That's just how I like it. I know that's a big contention in Louisiana. Do tomatoes go or do they not? Jasmine rice, chicken stock. I mean, good French bread with some roasted garlic butter on there. I mean, good jambalaya. That and my red beans and rice are pretty well on point. My gumbo, I will freely admit, sucks. I'm still, trying to learn how to make a roux. It's not there yet. Haven't tried making etouffee yet, just because I'm petrified. I've had so much good etouffee, I don't want to make a bad batch.
Of all the Cajun dishes I've had, etouffee would be my crawfish etouffee is my favorite.
Oh man, I had a next door neighbor in Fort Smith, little old Southern black lady, made the just most awesome etouffee ever. She grew up in New Orleans. I mean, you could smell the stuff, walking up the stairwell. Just nice bed of rice with that gravy, and oh my God, it's so good. Nothing like good Cajun food.
No doubt.
Well, what was the story when you were in Ville Platte? It wasn't a sport. It was like a Rotary Club or some kind of meeting you had to cover once a week, that they had the buffet.
Okay. It was a dish they called chicken sauce piquant. That was good too. In fact, oh gosh, I don't think I've had chicken sauce piquant since I left Ville Platte, and that's been almost 30 years now. But
that's tragic.
It was like etouffee in a way, but it had bits of chicken and all that, and oh man, it was good. It was addictive. In fact, one day, this is where I'm going with it. One day, I had nothing but chicken sauce. I didn't have any side dishes. I didn't have anything. All I ate that day was chicken sauce piquant. I had at least 3 plates full of it, and let's just say the Rotarians they weren't too pleased with my choice. I feel that way.
Everybody needs a good Rotarian story.
It's not Rotarian. In fact, they threatened to revoke our
press pass
to the weekly meetings. They threatened to not send us to Rotary Club meetings anymore. So,
over you having too much chicken sauce piquant.
I had to fall in line from then on. I had to eat what everybody else ate in just one plate. And not I had to eat the same amount of chicken sauce piquant as everybody else at Rotary. So
I see. If you just had to go to the Elks Club, you wouldn't have had to deal with that hoarseness.
So that's my Rotary Club story.
It was a 1-1, top of the 6th. Looks like Young just grounded out. And the National League is on its pitcher.
All the Ranger players are out. So the Rangers no longer have an impact in this game.
See,
they're win his inning, so
they're rotating some guys out.
All the Ranger players are out.
Let me look at the AL. The AL's on their 6th pitcher.
Yeah, they did the old 1-1-1-1-1 thing.
I was just taking a look. We were talking about old school, sports coverage. Can you imagine having to be the poor soul that had to put together the box score for the All Star game with all the substitutions,
or the scorekeeper, or the scorekeeper?
Oh man, What's going on with SB Live? What are you guys working on? What's
Well, I haven't talked. We haven't talked since then, but I've got a slight change to my work duties now.
Okay.
I'm now in charge of the entire state of Texas.
Wow, that takes in a good amount of square mileage.
So yeah, from Amarillo all the way to Beaumont, to Laredo, Corpus Christi, to Longview, to Sherman, Denison, all points in between. I've got the whole state now.
I mean, that is the pinnacle of high school football, is the state of Texas.
It is. And I was privileged last year to cover a few title games at Jerry World, and I'm looking forward to doing that again this year. We're about ready to get it going here in a few weeks. So I'm about to put together my list of games, first couple of weeks I want to cover and go from there. But, I'm still doing Oklahoma, still doing Louisiana, but Texas is my number one priority now. So
you've got the whole Mid-South territory. You got Louisiana, Oklahoma, Texas. I mean,
I still live in Arkansas. Go figure.
I mean, well, that was sort of it was Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and East Texas. They would do some shots in East Texas. They would do Mississippi. I remember. They would like South Mississippi. Jerry Jarrett and Memphis sort of had the northern part of Mississippi.
Yeah, Memphis. Yeah.
Then you had Georgia Championship Wrestling. Then you had Florida, but Florida and Georgia, the families that owned Championship Wrestling from Florida and Georgia Championship Wrestling, they would oftentimes swap their shares of the territories. But they would get tired of living in Atlanta. Oh, let's move down to Florida. And they would just that ownership
was cool. That was something else that was cool about the territories back in the day. It wasn't like if you were
so they had the Welches in Tennessee along with that was before Jerry Jarrett took over.
Territory, you'd say, hey, if one of your big stars wants to go to another territory for a while, you let them, you say, hey, and like,
you trade talent. You
trade talent. So and everybody, for the most part, got along with one another.
Well, territories. Hold on 1 second. Because territories would run shows 5, 6, 7 days a week, and you would overexpose guys. So you would purposely sometimes send them, like Jerry Graham in Florida. He would send Dusty Rhodes out for send him to other territories so he wouldn't grow stale there.
Right.
And that was Eddie Graham and Vince Sr. were good friends, and
yes.
He would they were always swapping talent back and forth. And there was at one point, had it not been for Hogan, Dusty would have been the big guy that they would have been promoting. But Hogan came in, and that all happened. But the good thing about Vince Sr. is he wasn't greedy. Anytime he would take talent, it's like, hey, can you get so and so ready? I need in a couple weeks. They're like, well, yeah, I guess so. All right, very, very good. I'll give you an extra week of dates on Andre. Which would be a week of sellouts.
Yeah, and that was another good thing about Vince Sr. Vince Sr. He was friends with a lot of the other promoters, and like you said, it was kind of.
And he wasn't a member of the NWA, though. He was still kind of he was loosely connected there because they still respected him. He wasn't an official member, but he was
right,
kind of in the shadows, for lack of a better phrase.
But when Vince Jr. took over, that all went out the window. Vince Jr. Didn't give it. He wanted to take his.
He raped, pillaged, and pilfered.
And territories be darned.
And there was a story. Whenever he came down, it was what they call like Black Saturday. Whenever Vince bought the Saturday night TV slot for Georgia Championship Wrestling, it was just before that. Vince had come down. He was trying to lure Ole Anderson to New York, and he told Ole, come with me. You'll make more money than you ever dreamed of. He told Vince, "Fuck you." Vince comes back a couple weeks later, and he brings his wife with him, Linda. And he's like, "Hey, Ole, this is my wife, Linda." And Ole's like, "Fuck her and fuck you too." Ole was a fool at the time. He didn't understand how the business was changing. Ole was. If you've ever had a chance to watch Ole Anderson interviews, he is simultaneously the most grouchy, crotchety, and hilarious old guy ever. It's like I couldn't stand to be around him for 10 minutes, but my God, can he make me laugh with some of his stories. I mean, we've kind of got it's sort of a weird thing now in pro wrestling because we've got so many promotions. We don't have territories. We've got so many promotions now between WWE, AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor. You've got Japan is still big, AAA in Mexico. You've got indie promotions. It's a weird world right now in pro wrestling, and I'm constantly struggling trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I still watch WWE. I try to keep up with the parts of AEW that are entertaining. I think MJF is, by the time it's all said and done, may be the best thing ever. That guy, his work is impeccable. His mic work is insane. He doesn't break character. He's a weird combination of Ric Flair, Roddy Piper, and the original Sheik, all wrapped in one.
That's a good comparison.
Oh God! Back in the day, whenever Sheik was running the Detroit territory, it was one of those things where he ran the territory so well and it got so hot, but also he never did the job. And it was like, who's going to beat this guy? Who's going to beat this guy? Then eventually they bring in Andre, and it's even he won't even do the job to Andre, and it killed the territory.
Yeah,
it's like if you won't do the job for Andre,
Exactly.
Did you happen to see the documentary HBO did on Andre a few years back?
No, still hadn't seen it.
Oh, do you have Peacock, the streaming service Peacock?
I don't have Peacock, no.
Okay, it's $5 a month. It's on there under the WWE section. The Andre stories are just endless.
Okay.
If you ever get the chance, and actually, Jake the Snake Roberts was on Joe Rogan's podcast a few years ago and told one of his Andre stories about when he was Andre's driver for a time.
Oh.
I guess he drew the short straw one night and had to drive Andre from town A to town B. It was like a 60, 80 mile trip. They had a cargo van that, for Andre, because he, couldn't really fit in anything. He had a beanbag chair, whatever. And, Jake, you asked, Andre, you want anything? He's like, beer. All right, well, tell you what, I may just have myself a 6-pack too, Andre. Andre's like, 2 cases. He's like, and Jake's thinking, well, he wants some for his room or something afterwards. So he goes into the liquor store, he gets 2 cases of beer for Andre, 6-pack for himself. Driving down the road, Jake gets 1 or 2 deep, has to stop and relieve himself. And the whole time he's driving, Andre's in the back, he just keeps hearing, the old pop tops just pop, 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 pop. And to where they're going. And, Jake parks the van, goes to, open the back door to let Andre out. And it's just this, flood of beer, 48 empty beer cans. And Jake looks at Andre, he's like, Andre, you want a beer? He's like, finished. What? You got to be kidding me. And he's around the back and he's feeling around. Andre drank 48 beers and didn't have to piss. And Jake was like, damn it, carry out, drink me. But if you drink 48 beers and don't have to go to the John, the guy had to have had a bladder the size of a camel. How you can consume 48 12-ounce beers and not have to. Good Lord. And of course, Andre tipping the car over with 4 guys in it.
Well, Brandon, I hate to cut this short, but I'm going to have to get off of here. I got some obligations.
It's about time for me as well. Well, Buck, thanks for coming on. Hopefully,
I'm glad we did this. It was so much fun again, and
I talked to Matty there. His computer had to do like a hard software reboot, so that's why they dropped out. But we need to try and get you on again at some point. Hopefully, you'll do the fantasy football league with us. We've got 8 guys right now. We're looking for at least a couple more. So, sign up and we can and it's like I think we're doing like $20 entry fee. It's really cheap. It's more for entertainment purposes just during the season. We're actually planning on. We don't know of another YouTube channel that does this, but we're going to be doing all day red zone coverage from 11:30 to the end every Sunday.
Nice.
So we're going to be, Hawk and Animal Road Warriors this football season. So we'd love to have you join the league, and hopefully we'll get you. We're gonna do we're gonna stream our draft live. So be another good opportunity to have you on. But take care of what you need to. Thanks for coming on again, man. You're one of my favorite guests, my mentor. I would not have the deep love of baseball I have if not for you.
My pleasure, Brandon.
And God bless Wild Bill. Take care of yourself, Buck.
Yes, sir. We'll see you later.
All right.